Hi, this is Scott Garibay. Oh, yeah, here, check that out. Pluto, never forget, 1930 to 2006. There you go. I love this new shirt. All right, never forget, Pluto got done wrong. All right, my name is Scott Garibay, and what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about Napoleon, and we're going to talk about crowns. All right, so I've been listening to Bill Maher. He has this little, I think it's called Overtime. He just, brings on thinkers and they talk about politics. It's brilliant. And they were discussing, and one of the first people said Napoleon crowned himself, right? And I think it was Bill that said it, and then a woman he was talking to said it just simplified matters tremendously, right? And I was thinking about this, and now the issue with Napoleon was he became the king of France, but who was going to crown him? Was it going to be was it going to be the church, or was it going to be, the nobility within France? And there was this question, right? And everybody had a reason not to crown Napoleon, but Napoleon crowned himself, right? And what I want to talk about today is, as I begin to understand Dungeons and Dragons, the Dungeon Master crown. When you are a Dungeon Master, when are you a Dungeon Master? When you have 100 sessions under your belt, right? And you will never stop. You will run until you will Dungeon Master until you die. And boy, I can tell you, that is quite literally happening. We are, we're reaching a point where Dungeons and Dragons is almost 50 years old, and there are people who are literally, setting up the DM screen, getting their D20s out, and running until they die. It is quite literally happening, right? So what is Dungeons and Dragons? Where do we land, right? And I think what it is, the more I think about it, and the more I think about what Gary actually accomplished in 1974 and how powerful it is, I realize that what Dungeon Master really is it has this extra benefit of you being positioned to tell these stories with a unique group of people, and the five of you are going to explore identity, narrative, and language. But perhaps an even more important value of the title Dungeon Master is what it is it is you crowning yourself. You saying, I am the cultural king of this world. I am the cultural queen of this world. I crown myself. Right? And the reality is, every Dungeon Master is inherently charismatic, confident, and intelligent. Now, again, my definition of Dungeon Master, 100 sessions in your belt, and you're never going to stop, right? Like, you have a commitment not to stop, right? But that person, and it's important because it's so easy to stop. It's so easy to stop Dungeon Mastering, right? And if you can continue forward, it means fundamentally you are charismatic. You can't Dungeon Master without confidence, because just go on Twitter, you'll hear a million people complaining about imposter syndrome, and people who are quite literally telling you they're not Dungeon Masters, right? And then because they just don't have the confidence to do it, right? Like you'll see it everywhere. Like you won't have to look on Twitter long; you'll find it real quick. And then charisma, if you're not charismatic, people are going to leave the table. Right, and if you're not intelligent, you're never going to have, patience for 8,000 pages of canon, right? So when you have this filter, right, when you're cutting this filter of confidence, charisma, intelligence, that is literally the ingredients of who should lead. So what Dungeon Master really is this super powerful declaration of who should lead, right? Our problem today, right, is it is not yet who will lead, right? Right now, we're like, hey, you got a white guy from an Ivy? Let's make him president, right? Oh, hey, are you a celebrity with 10 billion, in ticket sales? Yeah, you're fine. Rock, you want to be president? Whatever, right? We insist on being led by fools, right? But we actually have it, right? We crown ourselves. We say we are the cultural leaders of this world. And Ben from Questing Beast acknowledged it. He was like, last year, he's like, expectations for a 5th edition Dungeon Master, flat out. You could tell an epic story, you know the rules backwards and forwards, and you're a life coach. He said that was the expectation on a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. He's 100% right. People are looking to dungeon masters to lead. And then others are saying, oh my gosh, I realize this is a leader role, right? And, you know, and I'm frightened of even leading a table in creating a story. But the reality is, right? Once you have that table and you have those people, that's a group who support each other, right? And people are gonna need help. And guess where they're gonna look for help? Dungeon Master, right? Yeah. So it's a really incredibly powerful. So Dungeons & Dragons, we crown ourselves. If you take the role of Dungeon Master, right, you have mastered the dungeon and beyond, exactly like Gary laid out for us. Dungeon Master is actually a filter to say, these are the people who should rule. We may get to a point where people realize, oh, that's the people who will rule, right? Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.